Greetings viewers, Ericthecarguy here, up underneath the front of my 2005 Honda Element. We recently had a cold spat, and during that cold spat I came out one morning to find a puddle underneath the right front of the Element, and it turned out that that was brake fluid. Upon further inspection, I found out that this caliper that I put on here maybe about 5 years ago, I did the painting on this, I put this caliper on and it appeared to be leaking from the piston, and I'm going to take it apart and show you where I believe it was leaking, and you may even be looking at a picture of it now. Anyhow, that leak has ceased. It stopped. It was there for a little bit and then it stopped leaking, so it left a big old puddle and then just suddenly stopped. Not really sure why, but I don't trust it, so I'm going to replace this caliper. But more importantly, before the end of this video, I hope to find out what caused that to leak temporarily. First time I've ever seen anything like this. Stay tuned. These are the replacement calipers that I got for the Element, and my friends at TRQ sent me these. In fact, when I did a Google search for calipers for a 2005 Honda Element, these came up like first, and here's the part numbers for them. But they're also already painted red, which everybody knows is good for another 25% stopping power. No, that's not true at all. What it does mean for me is I'm not going to have to paint my new calipers before I put them on and deal with all that. They're already painted, so thanks TRQ. So if you need red calipers for something, well, these guys carry them. Normally, when I'm opening the brake system or doing a caliper replacement or something like that, and I don't want the brake fluid to continuously drip on the floor, I'll go in with this pair of vice grips with these pieces of fuel line on the end of them, and I will crimp off the brake line. But you can see I have steel braided lines here. You don't want to do that. So I have a trick that I actually learned from you viewers, and I'm going to show you right now that I'm going to do instead. And you see I have a drain pan here, and if I had my special like tube going into a soda bottle, I'd have that hooked up right now, but I don't. That's over in storage. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to crack this bleeder loose. Let it sit like that, and then do one more thing. Next, you want to come in and depress the brake pedal and have something to hold it. I have this here, so you want to try to push it down as far as you can go. And then I'm just going to jam this in here like this. And just doing that will stop things from bleeding out all over the place while we work. Well, it looks like we got everything in the pan, mostly. And now, this won't continuously drip as we work. From what I could see on my initial examination, it looked like that caliper was leaking right here. It almost looks like the piston is a little off center. It looks like it's a little cocked in its bore, and now that I'm looking at it, it does look like it's not in there correctly. So I'm going to pop that piston out and get a look at that seal. But I have a couple of working theories. One might be that brake fluid absorbs moisture, and perhaps like it settled, the water settled down to the bottom, and maybe when it turned to ice, when it got super cold, it might have moved the piston a little bit, just enough to allow the leak, and then it got warmer, melted, and the piston went back into position. I have a test on that I'm going to try for you right now. This is the actual brake fluid that I used in the Element when I topped it off. I'm certain that I used this. And it contains glycol, and glycol is something that can absorb moisture. In fact, they refer to brake fluid as being hygroscopic. That's with a G, hygroscopic. And glycol, which is in here somewhere, is, I believe, the thing that's responsible for that. What else has glycol in it? Antifreeze. Yeah, look down there. See where it says it has glycol? Or at least I hope you can see that. What that means is this stuff absorbs moisture. And your brake system is closed to try and prevent moisture from getting into the system, but I wonder if something got introduced or whatever. So I'm going to perform this little experiment. I'm going to take this little bit of brake fluid, pour it into this measuring cup, let's say to about there, maybe a little more. Okay, the next thing I want to do is, this is just tap water, not distilled or anything, so it's just tap water. And I'm just going to put a couple of drops in it just to see if it absorbs or if it sort of separates. Yeah, made it kind of gooey and weird, right? Anyhow, my thought with this is to leave this out overnight. We've had like sub-zero temperatures for weeks now. If I leave this out tonight, it will freeze. And I want to see, I'm going to mark right here where the level is. So when we come back tomorrow, we can see if that's going to be higher than what it normally was. Now, I poured what I consider too much water into this, so this experiment probably already is flawed, but I'm just curious as to what happens when we do this. I'll stop back when we know. It's the next morning. It's 15 degrees Fahrenheit outside, and well, nothing's changed. Everything's still liquid. It didn't expand, nothing. And this makes sense. As I mentioned before, glycol is a key component in, well, many antifreezes that are out there, and also brake fluid. Well, a lot of brake fluids, not synthetics. So it would stand to reason they would design it in such a way to where it wouldn't freeze, even if it was contaminated with moisture like I did. So we're going to have to look elsewhere for the cause of this mystery leak. Another theory that I had is that perhaps some water got down in between these little pleats on the dust boot. So if water sort of wicked in between this area and then froze, because when water freezes, it expands, and it will, believe me, it has a lot of force when it does this, and enough force to perhaps move this piston enough to cause that leak temporarily. And that's the weird thing about all this. I have no idea why this leak was there, leaked a lot, and then was gone. I just don't get it, other than something happening like this, because I didn't drive it, anything. It was sitting overnight, and it just happened. So I think what we'll do now is get this piston out of here and get a look at the seal on the inside of the square cut seal and see what's going on there. Like I mentioned, it looks like this is pushed this way a little bit, the way these pleats and everything look to me. This looks like the problem area. And when this is sitting on the vehicle, it's sitting like this. The lowest point would be here. Remember, I cracked the bleeder open before. We need to make sure that that's tight. Bleeder's tight. And now we'll pop this piston out. Okay, keep your fingers out of this area and you'll see why. There we go. Here's the piston. And when I look forward with these, it's like rust that gets pitted and can possibly cause a leak. There is some pitting here. I didn't exactly see where that was located, but I took it out just like this. So this pitting may very well be in the problem area. I don't see anything glaring about the piston that says, this is your problem right here. All this up in here, this is just dust boot. The only thing I'm concerned about is from here back, because everything up in here is just this outer, like I said, dust boot. And there's really only two parts to a caliper, or two seals. There's the outer dust seal, which is this guy here. And that's the dust seal. And then what I was wondering is somehow moisture or water gets down in between these pleats and then just sort of pushes this whole piston out of alignment with the seal and lets it leak. Now the inside of this bore kind of means nothing. The only thing that we really care about in here is this, and this is the square cut seal. And not only does this seal the inside of the caliper, but it also acts as the return spring. So far, yeah, there's a little bit of debris and stuff down in here. I'm not seeing anything specifically on the seal that screams out and says, I'm a problem. Now let's remove it. When brake pressure is applied, this seal will twist. When it's released, it twists back and acts as the return spring for the caliper. And what I've seen with these is it gets rusty inside of this groove and the seal just can't do its thing and then stops sealing and then it'll start to leak. But I'm not seeing anything on this, and I'll clean this seal up to see if I can find any damage to it anywhere. Also going to do the same to the piston. We'll take one last look, and then I kind of have to go with my theory that water might have gotten down in between these pleats and moved the piston around, and when it melted, it stopped leaking. That's all I can think of for now, unless you can think of something. I've cleaned the caliper piston, although not extremely well, but you still see those rust areas there. And also cleaned up the seal, which I'm going to try to find just the right light. You can see sometimes, yeah, you can see where there's just a little bit of stuff going on in that seal as well, right up there. Bottom line, I don't know if that was causing the leak or not. I don't think it was, nor do I think that this rust was causing it. I've seen a much worse and they don't leak. So I'm reluctant to say this. I'm going to stick with my theory that water got down in between these pleats, and when it did, perhaps it pushed the piston out of position, causing a leak, and then it went back. I don't know. Theory number 2 is that this might have gotten rolled over or boogered. Maybe that's responsible. When it rolled over, it got pinched in there and leaked for a little bit. I hit the brakes again and it straightened itself out and stopped leaking. I really don't know. It's a mystery. But always keep asking questions and stay dirty, people. Anyway, I'm going to go put those new calipers on. I'll show them to you because I know you'll want to see that before the end of the video. And then we'll check back. You can see them from a mile away. Yeah, these are very bright. Don't worry about the rust on this rotor because that's flash rust. A few brake applications and that should go away. But these go on here nicely, and like I said, they really pop and stand out. I'm about to bleed the brakes, and I'm using something, well, new to me, this tool, and this is my Mighty Vac. And this comes with a bunch of different attachments to attach to different types of master cylinders. But none for Honda, no. For Honda, use the universal one. And that pisses me off, frankly, because you've got all these other adapters, and it's not like Honda doesn't exist, but it's sort of like Honda doesn't exist with this. Oh, use the universal one. That'll work on Hondas. Not happy about that. Make a Honda adapter. Rant over. And this is part of the reason. I would just be able to pop a cap on, but instead I have to put this Rube Goldberg of a thing on here to get this to work. And what this is, to give you a one-man bleeding operation, is that you have a hand pump here that you can pump up, and I've got it just up to a couple of PSI. You don't really need a ton of pressure on this in order to get this to work. If you're wondering what this is, it's a relief valve. You pull up on it and it relieves the pressure. There's a valve in here that, well, let's open it up now and see if we can add pressure without. Seems okay. And that's brake fluid there going in from another thing. So with this open, I should be able to come down here and just open these bleeder valves, and it will bleed the system. Cool. Gonna do the other side. Oh, and in case you were wondering, I did remove my brace on the brake pedal, so that's all sorted. There we go. And that didn't take much at all to bleed this out. I'm pretty sure that's all I need. The calipers weren't extended yet. And now they should be. Meaning that they were still spaced between the back of the piston and the calipers. But I already feel a pretty solid pedal. So I'll go through that one more time and we'll call this done. Back over here on the workbench, I have the other caliper removed. So this is the left side, and I don't see anything in there. Oh, maybe at the top there. Well, no, I don't know if this is a leak up at the top here or not, or just some gook that got in there, but this one doesn't appear to be leaking. Didn't leave any puddles on the ground. Here we have a sort of cleaned up version of this guy. And I struggle to know exactly what happened here. I have yet to have seen a caliper that temporarily leaked and then suddenly healed itself. This is the only time I've ever encountered it. So I'm open to your input. This isn't an old caliper, it's only about 5 years old. I would love your input down in the comments. I know I didn't give you a definitive answer why this leaked temporarily, but I'm at a loss. So if you have some sort of theory or something, please feel free, leave it in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think caused this temporary leak in a caliper. I believe I'm at my wit's end. However, if you're at your wit's end, I ask that you head to Ericthecarguy.com because there's a ton of information there to help you with any automotive questions you might have. Other than that, I want to thank you so much for watching today. Be safe, have fun, stay dirty. I will see you next time.